Hello, I'm Sandra Chuma. NDINI has always been a platform of inspiration and empowerment. We share the stories of bold, inspiring, trailblazing, and influential women of color. Since starting this platform, I've had conversations with women from all walks of life. And each one of them, in their own way, is defining and changing the narrative of what it means to be a woman of African descent. In this very special episode that I'm so excited to share, we've gathered just some of the valuable life lessons and words of wisdom that these phenomenal women shared with us. But before we continue with the episode, I have a very special announcement. NDINI is launching our very first ebook. This ebook features highlights from our conversations, including some of the ones you'll see in this episode. You'll also get my personal insights and takeaways from these powerful conversations. The ebook is absolutely free, as in $0. Just follow the link in the show notes or go to ndini.com, that's NDINI.com, to sign up and get our amazing 38-page ebook. And again, like I said, it is absolutely free. Someone recently asked me a question that really got me thinking. They asked me, who do you want to be 364 days from today? A year from now, who do you want to be? And I want to ask you that question. A year from now, what do you want to have achieved? How do you want to feel? What do you want to be doing? What are those dreams and desires that you've had that you haven't achieved before? I've had the good fortune this year to speak to some phenomenal women. These are women from all walks of life who are doing inspiring and trailblazing things in the world. And they shared with me some of their struggles, some of their triumphs, some of their stories of resilience. They shared their wisdom with me. And I want to share that wisdom with you to help you make this your best year ever. Some of the guests that I spoke to spoke about purpose. Finding your purpose. This is one of the most important and most challenging things that many of us face is figuring out, why am I here? What is it I'm meant to be doing? I know that it's something that I struggled with for a really long time. I wanted to share with you some of the words of wisdom that my guests shared about their definition of purpose. Dr. Nothabo Ncube gave us her definition of purpose in episode 39. So you've talked a few times now about purpose and aligning with purpose. How do you define purpose?
Purpose is your gift. Your gift. Whatever you're called to do, to serve other people's lives, that's what purpose is. It's that burning desire to serve. We've all been called for different things. Mine is to impact and to change other people's lives. For some is to teach, for some is to be a nurse, whatever that thing is. It's that thing that comes easy to you. That thing that when you do, you feel light, you feel happy, you feel fulfilled. That's what purpose is to me.
I loved what Nothabo said about purpose and it being that thing that comes easy to you. I think for so many of us, we think that purpose has to be this grand thing that we have to be impacting thousands of people or making lots of money. And yet, like she said, it's really that thing that brings you joy, that thing that makes you come alive. In episode 37, I got the opportunity to interview Zahara. She is one of the biggest stars in South African music. And she asked the fundamental question of, if you're not following your heart, if you're not following your dream, if you're not following purpose, what is it that you have? Now you, speaking of Mthwalo Wakho Uyakusinda, you've experienced some tough things recently. I know your brother passed. I know even very recently you had an incident where you were injured. Yeah. How do you get through that? What are your strategies for getting through those difficult times?
It's knowing who you are and what we were born for. So if you give up in your dream or in your vision, so what are you going to be? And let me tell you what gets me through that. I'm a human being too. I cry by myself. Sometimes when I sing my song, because I tell a story and I'll cry on stage because I will always remember when I was writing the song, or why I was writing the song. So it's because of God, my mother, my family, everybody, even you guys, my supporters. I'm sure there are sometimes you know what, God, may you keep the, you see what I mean? So that's what it does. But you never know, it will channel and it gets to South Africa what you said. You see what I mean?
Yes.
So I believe that what you are born for, don't leave it for nothing. I'm telling you, like you're saying, I was stabbed and everything. But it's not about that, because I'm injured, so must I stop singing? Because I've got enemies which I don't know because of what, so must I stop singing? I can't. Because there's so many souls out there. They need this voice. Because I believe when I sing, people, they find their voice in my voice. And when I tell my story, you find your story in my story with my songs. So I can't do that. So I'll be selfish.
I loved what Zahara said about her mom telling her that we all come to this earth with a gift. She described it as having something in your hands. And our job and our purpose in this life is really to find what that gift is and how we can use that gift to help others or to serve others. In her case, her gift is music. And what was so phenomenal about Zahara and her career is the fact that this is a woman who doesn't know how to read music, she doesn't write music, and yet she's learned how to use her gift of music in the way that she knows best. In episode 40, I interviewed the incredible Chidiogo Akunyilipar. This is a woman who is so incredibly accomplished. She's been a World Economic Forum fellow. She's worked all over the world and speaks 7 languages. But she spoke about her greatest struggle.
I had all my life had been wanting to please people and to show up in a way that no one takes offense. And I would suffer in the midst of that. So I suffered greatly because I had no language to speak up for myself, even though I was strong. I hadn't learned to be strong in a situation that disempowered me, literally. And that was an important lesson because I learned very much after that to always seize my own power, especially in spaces that want to take it away from you, that then you're the only one that can really speak up, and it's not to be found in complaining afterwards, that it's really to be found in stepping into your intuition, that it's not okay to talk to me in a certain way, it's not okay to treat me in a certain way.
Chidiogo talked about something that so many of us struggle with, the disease to please. We want to make people like us, we want to make sure we're not offending anyone, and sometimes in doing that we lose our voice. But what I loved about it is how she talked about having found the courage, how she described that she's now marching to the beat of her own drum. Several of my guests this year talked about intention and the power of intention. In episode 24, I talked to Catherine Adai, and she talked about how she had a dream and she believed in the power of her dream and that she went about intentionally making that dream come true. What do you want, especially you have 2 daughters, what do you want your daughters in particular, and your son too, to learn from looking at you and what you're doing?
That's a great question. And of course, at the end of the day, I do it for them, right? And I really hope one of them takes on the helms of Kayla K as they get older.
I think Michaela's got style.
I think she does. And she's been doing some little arts and crafts here and there with glue and scissors, so she might be the one. But I want my girls to know that they can be themselves. And fashion is a great way to express it. And you don't have to blend in with the masses, and that it's not a bad thing to stand out. Especially now, we're teaching trying to teach people being different is great. And that everything doesn't have to be hanging out for it to be sexy and beautiful. To always be classy, behave that way, let your personal style and your fashion sense, express that. And for all 3 of them, hard work, dedication, determination, and setting your mind to something and not wavering from it. If you make a decision, stick to it. If that's what you want to go for, go for it. My new tagline on my personal Instagram page is that I'm a believer in the reality of dreams. Because I had a dream, And I was able to, by divine intervention, support, and God, and a talent that God has given me, I was able to manifest that into a reality. Even times when I didn't think was going to be my reality, I've managed to do that. And so if you have a dream out there, go for it, cultivate it, and have fun doing it. Meet wonderful people, meet as many people as you can, be open, be outgoing, have a good time, because you just never know. You never know who you're going to meet, you never know who you're going to inspire, who's going to inspire you. And so just be you, have fun, share a story, work hard, be dedicated. Everything on that wall of mine near my chandelier.
Catherine talked about the power of believing in her dreams, but she also talked about how it was difficult, how it meant her making very difficult decisions. She left the security of a secure job to jump into the unknown of being an entrepreneur. And I'd ask you, what is it you're holding yourself back from? What is it you're afraid to take the leap and do? What are those dreams that you've always wanted to achieve, but you're too afraid of what the unknown looks like? One of the most powerful guests that I had on the show was in episode 12, where we spoke to Mpumi Nobiva. She is the young woman who was orphaned by HIV/AIDS. She lost her mother when she was 9 years old. And she talked in this clip about that moment when she was told about how it was that her mother contracted the disease. With hearing something like that, how do you take that and how do you move forward in your life in terms of how do you honor your mother and the sacrifice that she really made?
I share her story with pride. And I talk about how proud I am to be her child. The one person I know who at 25 could own up to her reality and share it in such a compassionate way. You've got to be really special to see that far. And I think it's because of that conversation, I have no doubt, that I stayed in line in that particular society and was able to be prepared. That and my grandmother's strength and prayers and her work in getting me to school every day, making sure that I was fed, even while my mother was dying. Those are the reasons I was able to meet that moment of opportunity when my life was changed through education. And so I have no ounce of shame. In fact, I'm honored that that's who I get to call my mother, I'm honored. And I'm proud of the way she lived. And I understand that life, threw its cards at her. And she did the best with what she thought she had. And that's just life as we know it. But I'm honored and feel deeply privileged that I get to share that narrative, because it's an alternative to what is currently still a very huge barrier to us overcoming this epidemic where we have the highest prevalence in the world. The first thing is stigma. Like we still can't get enough people just to a point where they understand that you are more than your circumstances, that you're bigger than that. And so for me, I understand that. I have no sense of shame or sense of feeling less than, because that's what I've come from. I understand that didn't happen to me, it happened for me. That's the difference. It happened for me.
In living your life with intention, Mpumi talks about how you are so much more than your circumstances. She says how your circumstances are happening for you and not to you. How you need to make that mindset shift, that everything that is happening is going to help you, is going to move you further along the journey of you moving towards your dreams, if you'll only allow it. Diara Bosunyang in episode 31 talked about the one thing that often holds us back from achieving our dreams. We're afraid. We're afraid to take that first leap. But here's what she said you have to do.
What's been your biggest surprise or your biggest learning from this journey?
Maybe you never ready, because I was waiting I waited a long time, but then at some point I'm like, okay, you know what? Just do it. Just start. You are never ready. You're never ready for this. So what you just need to do is just start and see how it goes and where it will take you.
I can't think of any better advice than the advice that Diara gave. You literally have to just do it. There will never be a perfect time when everything is perfectly aligned, when you have all the money that you need, when all the circumstances are just right. You just have to take the leap. I recently read something where the National Science Foundation said the average person thinks between 12,000 and 60,000 thoughts a day. And 80%, that's right, 80% of those thoughts are negative. Some of my guests shared their thoughts on mindset and the power of belief. In episode 17, I spoke to Farai Simoy. Farai is a designer based in New York, originally from Zimbabwe. And here's what she had to say about the power of belief. You talk about belief and you talk about manifesting and law of attraction. Like, what are your beliefs around that?
My beliefs are around just like law of attraction and things like that. I think that it has to come from within. You know, somebody the other day was saying, you know, do you ever doubt yourself? And to be honest with you, I don't doubt myself. Yes, I have fears and concerns and I get nervous about things and anxiety, whatever, anything a normal entrepreneur would get. But doubting yourself, you've already killed your dream before you've even begun. So that's just like one thing that I've never done. And I think that's why people, like we talked about, like, how are you able to do Bloom and narrative and da-da-da-da-da? Because I just believe, you know? And I think there's a way to believe in yourself and not be like, it's not overly confident. It's just saying, like, I know who I am, I know what I bring to the table, and I know that I am bringing purpose to this, you know, whatever I'm doing, so.
What Farai said is so powerful. If you don't believe in yourself or you don't believe in your own ideas, then how can you expect anybody else to believe in you or in your ideas? And so we always have to remember that we always have to be our own best supporters. We have to believe in ourselves and our own ideas. One of the most powerful conversations that I had this past season was with Gugu Ngabinde. Gugu is the founder of Gugu Intimates, an underwear line that's based in South Africa. And this is what she had to say about that moment when she started to doubt herself when she was creating her underwear line.
And it's an event that we have here tomorrow at the store where we talk about intentional living. It makes me very emotional, but I used to talk about it, but I created something. And it's real. Yeah.
Who are some of the women who inspire you?
More tear works coming. I think in absentia,
Let's just back up. Where are the tears coming? Let's talk about that. Where are the tears coming from? What is it? Like, what is it that makes you so emotional?
So Gugu Intimates is a story of self-belief for me. I grew up with a lot of people telling me how smart I am and how I'm going to go far, but I could never actually see it for myself. You know, I kind of believed it to a form. It's propelled me, obviously. I've done some great things in my career. I've created brand campaigns that have created memories for people, yeah? But to do this and actually keep going, I remember once I'd flown to Zim to see my brother. He'd been in a car accident, and I was actually at the hardest point of this journey. It was a lot. I was starting to get scared, one, that I was taking too long to get into market. Somebody would beat me to it, and I'd already spent a year. So all the panic. Am I going to find the money? And he was lying there, just come out of ICU, able to talk and all, and he was just like, they'll launch something like this, but they're not you. So it'll never be like this. I need you to be okay with that. What you have to bring to the world is needed. So I need you to forget about anyone else who could. I mean, you don't see Steve Jobs having lost sleep over Samsung having launched. So I need you to just get outside of being the only one and just be the best at the way you're going to do it. And just to see one of my life's role models affirm me like that, I came back and I kept going. But the people who've impacted my life the most for me at this point in time are no longer around. And that's, for me, what makes me very emotional. It took me a while to realize that they're here. So for a long time, it beat me up that they were not here anymore, like physically. So the tears come from also, can you see this? Like, I think about my mom, I think about my brothers, I think about my grandparents, who all used to say there's something so special about you. And I didn't know what it was. And that makes me quite emotional to see this thing and see how people respond and see you get on a plane, get people together to come and talk to me about this journey. That's the surprise. That's what makes me extremely emotional. Like, I need to believe in myself a lot more than, I know I look very confident, but when I look at those moments, I realize I really need to put it together and do it even more for other people to be able to see that in themselves.
My interview with Gugu was incredibly powerful. She shared so many powerful insights about what it had taken for her to get to where she was. One of the things that she said in our interview is the fact that there's so many ideas that end up in cemeteries. So many people who have an idea but are too afraid to follow their hearts and their passions and pursue it, who end up dying with that idea within them. Gugu also said something that really stayed with me. She said that you owe it to yourself, but you also owe it to the world to bring your idea to life. In episode 28, I spoke to Dr. Timia Biaganabajianti. Now, she was unusual in the fact that she's a space lawyer. I've not met many of those. In fact, I didn't even know that such a thing existed. And I'm sure most people in the world don't know. And she talked about how it was challenging being the only woman, oftentimes, certainly the only Black woman, and most definitely the only African woman in an industry that is dominated by men. What was striking to me was a piece of advice that she was actually given by somebody else.
The biggest thing that I want to do is really show people what's possible. I think that there's so many things to tell us that you can't do it. Even if those things are indirect, but there's symbols around us. There are things that even our parents say because they're trying to protect us that make us feel that we can't do things and that we can't put ourselves out there. We're so scared of the ramifications of putting our hand up and having an opinion. And there are ramifications, right? We see that, I mean, people hate politicians, but I think that's really hard to take a stand on something. And that's why someone gets elected, because they're able to stand up and say, this is what I believe. I believe this, I'm gonna stand up for this, and all of you can stand behind me and I will take the brunt of it. And that's what I'm passionate about telling people, that, you know what, you can do something that most people might laugh at you. When I say I work in the Nigerian Space Agency, people would laugh. People would say, you don't even have anything in your country. People are starving and dying. What are you doing here? And you have to have the confidence to say, I'm going to stand up and talk to the head of NASA. I remember I went to a conference in the United Arab Emirates when I was executive director of the World Space Week Association. And I was really intimidated to go talk to the head because, you know, they're dressed in their beautiful clothes, and in Dubai, everything is very fancy. And I was with ambassadors. And I remember the ambassador from Cameroon or from one of these other countries, he said to me, why are you intimidated? Go and talk to him. You're the head of your organization. He's the head of his organization. That's how you have to deal with him. But I was looking at myself as just a small girl, and he's like this big Emirati prince. But no, so those words follow me forever, for the rest of my days, is that no, you might feel that you're just a small girl, but you guys are equals because he's running something and you're running something. So talk to him at that level. And that's the message that I really want to get to people, is that you should act to where you want to be. Start taking steps towards acting where you want to be, not necessarily where you are, because then the rest of the world will start seeing you in a different light.
What I loved that she said, and she said it so forcefully and so passionately, is act to where you want to be. Act to be who you want to be now. Don't wait until you get there. And it reminded me of actually a quote by Marianne Williamson, where Marianne Williamson says that what we're most afraid of is our light. It's not our darkness that scares us, it's our light. But she says, who are you not to be brilliant? Who are you not to be all that you were put on this earth to be? In episode 38, I got to interview one of the biggest superstars in African music, the queen of Afropop herself, Miss Yemi Alade. And she said something that really got me thinking about mindset.
What I do want to know, and one of my favorite songs is K-I-N-G. Oh, yeah.
Wow.
king and not queen.
Girl, when you grow up in a place like Nigeria where you're obviously not born in a family where there's, you're not born with a silver spoon, you have to assume certain roles, both physically and mentally. And it takes, sometimes being the best that you can, you have to talk to yourself, and it takes a lot of talking into the mirror. And then I realized that if you want to be great, sometimes you need to look around and see who's living your dream and try to emulate. And it turns out to be that most of the time the guys are actually getting it way better than we are. So if all I have to do is be a guy mentally, I will do it. So please do not call me queen, I'm king. Just saying.
K-I-N-G? Oh, yeah.
Just saying.
Yemi talked about mindset and the fact that sometimes you have to literally talk to yourself in the mirror. And like she said as well, sometimes you have to put on a persona. If it takes thinking and being like somebody else, somebody that you think is successful and who you aspire to be, then that's what you've got to do. You have to shift your mentality to being, then doing, then having. And that's the mindset shift that we all need to make, that we can't wait to get there. We need to act like who we want to be today. I had the opportunity to interview one of Africa's greatest Olympians, Kirsty Coventry, who's been to 5 Olympic Games and won 7 Olympic medals. And as you can imagine, being someone of her caliber, mindset and belief in herself is a big part of what she's had to do to get to the level that she's been at. But she also shared the difficult journey of when things don't go so well.
And lo and behold, the doctor comes in a couple hours later and she's like, "You have pneumonia." And I was like, "Excuse me? I have what? I haven't been coughing. I hadn't." And she was like, "It's really common in elite athletes because they're pushing their bodies so high, and in triathletes and swimmers especially because of the surroundings that you guys are in." And yes, she was like, my whole right bottom part of my lung was just full of blood. She's like, "You have pneumonia." And so what I had to do for that is bed rest for 10 days. I was like, "Are you kidding me?" And this was 2 months before London. So it was just this constant mind game of are you really, I know what everyone else is doing and I'm lying here watching TV, let's put another movie on. And I managed to come 6th in the 200 backstroke and 6th in the 200 IM, just knowing that you kind of have to be your own cheerleader and what is success to you, not necessarily what is success to other people, because what you would have gone through in your journey could mean you're just as successful as that person getting that gold medal, but just in different terms.
As Kirsty said in our interview, she said that what to somebody else may not be an achievement, to you may be an achievement. And so it's all about perspective. It's all about you doing your best. In episode 41, I got to interview the incredible Cindy Zamora Bernard, who is quite literally changing people's lives with the work that she's doing with her foundation. Here's what she said, though, about what held her back for the longest time.
Don't be afraid, because fear really, really, it cripples us. Don't be afraid, because I know for me that's what crippled me. I was afraid of so many things. I was afraid of my dark skin. I was afraid of my background. I was afraid of what are people going to say? Are they going to like me? Are they going to understand me? There was so much fear, but it was self-inflicted fear. And I think once I let go of that, once I accepted that with the being that I am and what I want to do, I'll be able to do anything. So don't be afraid. You gotta believe in yourself.
One of the things that Cindy said in our interview was the fact that what held her back for so long was the fear of other people and other people's opinions. But ultimately, she said that as long as she felt comfortable that she was doing the best that she could, then that's all that really matters. And for you too, it's the same. If you're doing the best that you can, then that is all that really matters. One of our earliest episodes, actually episode 2, was with filmmaker NDINI Nair. And it was what she said at the very end of our interview when I asked her to finish the sentence, "I am," that was most striking to me.
So I'll ask you the last question, if I may. Thank you so much. So NDINI is the name of this project, and NDINI in my mother tongue means I am. So finish that sentence for me. I am.
I am a storyteller. I am a daughter. I'm a sister. I'm also an aunt. We call it Masi in our language. I'm a human. I have faults. And I'm doing my best. I think that's what I would say.
As Anjali said, I'm doing my best. If all you ever do is your best, then that is good enough. One of my favorite books is The Four Agreements. And the fourth agreement in The Four Agreements is always do your best. And he talks about how your best will change from day to day. But as long as you always do your best, then that is enough.